Hey, Stoic warrior. Before anything else, take a breath, because today's message is not loud, not chaotic, not emotional. It is quiet, sharp, and transformative. We live in a world where everyone is trying to prove something. People talk endlessly to defend themselves, justify their behavior, convince others of their worth, argue to be seen, beg to be chosen, or explain themselves to people who have already closed their ears. But the Stoic does not do this. The Stoic does not beg for attention. The Stoic does not chase validation. The Stoic does not explain himself to the world. Because he understands a truth most people never learn. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is strength. And the moment you understand the power of silence, your life changes. Your relationships change. Your self-respect deepens. Your emotional discipline becomes unshakable. And suddenly, you stop moving like everyone else. You move like someone who knows their value. Most people, when they feel hurt or rejected, rush to defend themselves. They chase, they plead, they try to fix what is already broken by talking. They try to convince people who have already decided not to understand them. They pour out paragraphs, long explanations, emotional essays, all in the name of being seen. But here's the harsh truth. The more you explain, the weaker you look to someone who has already made up their mind. And the more you try to convince someone of your worth, the more power you give them. That is not strength. That is not dignity. That is not Stoicism. The Stoics understood something that our modern world desperately needs to remember. You do not control how others see you. You control your actions and your character. Nothing more. Marcus Aurelius said, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." When you chase someone's validation, you hand over control. When you beg to be understood, you hand over control. When you explain yourself to someone who refuses to listen, you hand over control. Your peace becomes dependent on someone else's reaction, and that is not peace. That is emotional imprisonment. Real strength is when someone disrespects you, and you walk away without a word, not because you're weak, not because you don't care, but because responding would cost you more dignity than remaining silent. Your dignity does not argue. Your worth does not beg. Your inner peace does not explain itself. Your silence detaches. And real silence, Stoic silence, is not empty. It's discipline. It's self-respect. It's the calm certainty that says, I don't need you to understand me in order for me to understand myself. People fear this kind of silence, because when you stop reacting, they lose the control they thought they had over you. So today, we're diving into 6 deep Stoic truths. 6 reasons why silence is not weakness, not avoidance, not passivity, but the purest expression of emotional mastery. This message is for the person who has overgiven, who has chased, who has over-explained, who has been misunderstood, who has lost themselves trying to be heard. This is your reminder, your recalibration, your shift back into power. Let's begin. 1. Silence makes them feel your absence more than your words ever made them feel your presence. There is a strange paradox in human connection. People don't appreciate your words until your silence replaces them. When someone hurts you, disrespects you, dismisses your feelings, or ghosts you, the instinct screams, say something, prove your worth, defend yourself. So you explain. You send long messages. You justify your emotions. You ask for clarity. You try to repair their behavior through conversation, but the more you speak, the less they listen. The more you chase, the more they retreat. The more you explain, the less they value what you're saying, because words are everywhere. Words are cheap, words are expected, but silence is rare. Silence is startling. Silence is noticed. When you go silent on someone who expected you to beg, something shifts. Your absence becomes louder than any explanation you could have given. Elbert Hubbard once said, "He who does not understand your silence will probably not understand your words." Stoics understood this thousands of years before psychology gave it language. Silence forces people to confront the reality they tried to ignore. When you withdraw, you hold up a mirror. Suddenly, they must face their actions without your emotional cushioning. They feel the void of your presence. They notice the lack of your energy, your effort, your patience, your care. This silence does not come from ego. It comes from recognition. You recognize that. If they valued you, they would make effort. If they respected you, they would act differently. If they cared, they would reach out. And if they don't, then your silence becomes your boundary. Your silence becomes your self-respect. Your silence becomes your power. The moment you stop explaining yourself to people who don't want to understand you, you reclaim the energy you wasted. You stop trying to heal through conversation, because some wounds are healed not by talking, but by stepping back. They will be triggered by your silence. They will be confused. They will wonder why you no longer react. They will ask themselves, why did he not chase? Why did she not respond? Did they stop caring? Yes. Or rather, you started caring about yourself more. Because silence says what pride cannot. I owe you nothing. Not an explanation, not my energy, not my peace. 2. When you stay silent, you finally hear the truth. Not from others, but from within. Most people cannot sit in silence because silence exposes truth, and truth often contradicts our emotional hopes. When you are betrayed, hurt, abandoned, or disrespected, the instinct is to talk, to call friends, to ask for advice, to confront the person, to demand clarity, to seek reassurance. But the Stoic does the opposite. He becomes quiet, because real answers do not come from noise. Real answers come from reflection. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." Meaning, the story you tell yourself about the situation hurts more than the situation itself. Silence helps you rewrite that story. It slows the emotional storm. It separates fact from feeling. It reveals the deeper truth. You begin to realize, they never respected me. I just didn't want to see it. I'm not hurt because they left. I'm hurt because I stayed too long. I don't need closure. I need boundaries. I'm not waiting for them. I'm avoiding accepting the truth. These realizations don't come from conversations with others. They come from the quiet voice inside you, the one you silence when you chase external validation. Silence gives you space. Space to think, space to breathe, space to observe yourself without emotional interference. When the Stoic is overwhelmed or clouded by emotion, he does not act. He pauses. He retreats inward. He listens. Society teaches the opposite. Speak your mind. Say how you feel. Don't stay quiet. But Stoicism teaches, don't react. Respond, and only after clarity. When you stay silent long enough, something powerful happens. People reveal themselves. You don't need to question their intentions. Their behavior speaks. You don't need to ask whether they care. Their actions show. You don't need to force clarity. Their consistency provides it. Silence does not hide truth. Silence exposes it. And in that exposure, you gain a level of emotional discipline most people never achieve. 3. Begging for closure is a form of self-betrayal. Silence gives you the closure you are seeking. Closure. Everyone wants it. Few people admit how desperately they need it. But here's the harsh reality. If someone cared enough, you wouldn't need to beg for closure. If someone respected you, they would offer it willingly. If someone valued you, they wouldn't leave you confused. As Epictetus said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. The search for closure often becomes a disguised search for validation. You want them to explain themselves so you can feel worthy again. You want them to admit wrongdoing so you can feel seen. You want them to talk to you one last time so you feel like you mattered. But that is not closure. That is emotional dependency. Talking to someone who has already made peace with hurting you never leads to healing. It only leads to more pain. Here's the truth no one wants to hear. Closure is not something they give you. Closure is something you decide. Every time you write long messages hoping for answers. Every time you demand explanations. Every time you wait for them to give you peace. You're delaying your own healing. You're betraying your own peace. Stoics believe that emotional clarity comes from accepting what is, not forcing what isn't. You cannot force someone to care. You cannot force someone to be honest. You cannot force someone to give you closure. But you can close the door yourself, quietly, with dignity, without begging. When you finally go silent, the healing begins. Your silence becomes your acceptance. Your silence becomes your boundary. Your silence becomes the closure you once begged for. Because the truth is simple. You don't need their goodbye. You don't need their explanation. You don't need their final message. You don't need their emotional permission to move on. You need only one thing: your own decision to stop discussing what is already dead. 4. Silence exposes what words try to hide. People reveal themselves when you stop speaking. Words are beautiful. Words can heal, guide, inspire, and connect. But words can also lie. Words can manipulate. Words can disguise intentions. Words can hide the truth. Actions, however, cannot. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "What you do speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you say." When you go silent, something incredible happens. You stop being distracted by someone's words, excuses, and promises. You start seeing who they actually are. Because silence gives people room to show their true character. When you stop explaining yourself, stop reaching out, stop trying to repair connection, you learn very quickly who was genuine and who was only benefiting from your effort. Some people will miss you. Some will check in, some will apologize, some will show maturity. Others, they will disappear because they only stayed as long as you were giving. They only acted kind when they needed something from you. They only played nice when you made it easy. Silence exposes that. The one who values you will reach out. The one who used you will vanish. The one who manipulated you will become angry or confused because their control no longer works. Words are easy, patterns are not. Silence helps you see patterns clearer than any conversation. People can debate your words, but they cannot debate your absence. When you stop speaking, you stop feeding their illusions. You stop giving them emotional oxygen. You stop participating in dynamics that drained you. This is why Stoicism values silence, not as punishment, but as clarity. It reveals truth without conflict. It shows character without arguments. It exposes intentions without confrontation. You don't need to test anyone. Just stop talking and watch what they do. 5. Not explaining yourself is a high form of confidence. The Stoic seeks understanding within, not from others. We live in a culture where everyone wants to be understood, where everyone wants to be seen as good, kind, loyal, or right. So people over-explain themselves, afraid of being misjudged. But Stoicism teaches something radically powerful. The need to explain yourself is rooted in insecurity. The refusal to explain yourself is rooted in self-confidence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't waste what remains of your life in speculating about your neighbors." Meaning, stop worrying about how you're perceived. Stop obsessing over how others interpret your actions. Stop giving mental energy to people who do not live your life. When you explain yourself to someone who has already judged you, you're not seeking clarity. You're seeking permission. You're hoping they'll approve of your intentions. You're hoping they'll understand your motives. You're hoping they'll see your purity. But the Stoic knows Self-understanding is more important than being understood by others. When you stop explaining, several things happen. You stop wasting energy. You stop seeking external validation. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop opening the door to manipulation. People who value you won't need explanations. People who doubt you won't believe explanations anyway. People who twist your words will twist them no matter how clearly you speak. So why explain yourself? When you move in silence, people either respect your conviction or remove themselves. Either outcome is clarity. This level of confidence will confuse people. Some will call you distant, some will call you cold, some will say you've changed, but the truth is, you've simply stopped performing. You've stopped shrinking. You've stopped adjusting your truth to make others comfortable. Silence is not arrogance. Silence is alignment. Alignment with your values. Alignment with your peace. Alignment with your dignity. Those who belong in your life will understand your silence. Those who don't will be filtered out by it. 6. Your silent detachment teaches a lesson. No words ever could. Distance is the greatest teacher. There is nothing more powerful than someone who leaves quietly. No anger, no drama, no emotional monologue. Just a calm exit and a door that stays closed. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Which means your silence is not the thing that hurts them. Their mind is. When you detach silently, people are left alone with their own conscience, their guilt, their regret, their confusion, their memories of how you treated them, their realization of what they lost. Most people expect you to react. They expect you to come back. They expect you to fight for them. They expect you to explain yourself. When you don't, it shocks them. It disrupts their sense of control. It forces them to see themselves clearly. Silence teaches the lesson better than confrontation ever could. Because distance exposes the truth. They never thought you would actually walk away. And if they still don't change, if they still don't care, then your silence becomes your answer. Stoic detachment is not heartlessness. It's maturity. It's emotional mastery. It's the decision to stop bleeding in front of people who enjoy watching you hurt. It's the realization that your peace is more important than any connection. When you detach in silence, you stop participating in toxic patterns. You stop feeding dynamics that drain your soul. You stop explaining storms to people who live indoors. You don't have to announce that you're done. You don't have to prove your pain. You don't have to justify your exit. You can simply be done. No performance, no speech. Just a quiet decision followed by unwavering action. That is real power. And it terrifies people, because they cannot control a silent person who knows their worth. Final message. If you've listened this far, something in you already knows this truth. You have given too much. You have spoken too much. You have explained yourself too much. You have chased too much. You have justified your worth too often. But you're done with that now. From here on, you choose the stoic path, not the loud path, not the emotional path, not the reactive path, but the path of clarity, the path of self-respect, the path of silence. You no longer chase, because what is meant for you does not require pursuit. You no longer beg, because anything you must beg for is beneath you. You no longer explain, because people who deserve you won't require explanations. Your silence is not a weapon. It is wisdom. It is not manipulation. It is mastery. It is not weakness. It is control. Let your silence be your boundary. Let your silence be your clarity. Let your silence be your dignity. Let your silence be your final word, not out of ego, not out of spite, but out of deep, unshakable self-respect. And if there is one truth you take from this entire message, let it be this. Your silence is not emptiness. It is power. Your silence is not withdrawal. It is self-respect. Your silence is not defeat. It is elevation. Your silence is your superpower.